Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everyone is having a fantastic Friday so far. Glad to see everybody in the live stream today. Let's see what we have in here. We have Caleb, Catman, Pete, Tyler, Carson, Severe Weather Alert, Sam, as well as Proxy, Jessica, Rockets. Hold on, I saw some more up here. Edits, Brian, Cody. There was one more person I know I'm going to end up. Chris, there you go, Chris. Welcome to the live stream as well. And everyone else who is watching may not be chatting, or if I missed you, welcome to the live stream, Lily, as well as LWX24, Connor. There's quite a few people who chatted at the very top. Mike, as well as Victoria. And let's go ahead and dive right on into this. I don't want to stay here too long. I don't want to keep you guys waiting for that long here. My overlays decided to screw up again right before the live stream, but it appears I fixed them, so that's pretty cool. Hello, Mr. Tanks, as well as Maurice, Johnny. Glad to see you all in here. So in this stream, we're going to be talking about the potential for a widespread threat of severe weather. It's a little bit too far out to be talking about complete specifics. So I'm just going to give you the general idea of what I personally believe is going to be a possibility over the next week or so, especially in terms of that severe threat. It's about 7 to 8 days out. So it's right at that range between you don't want to look at deterministics and also it's good to look at deterministics. So it's right in that little weird range where you're not sure if models are completely locked in, but you're not sure that they're not completely locked in, so it's confusing. Basically, we'll go over all the scenarios, what I think is the most likely case scenario, what I think could limit the severe threat, what I believe is going to be the underperforming bust factors per se, what may end up busting the severe threat, and what we'll have to watch on the model runs over the next couple of days to figure out how substantial of a severe threat this may end up being. Well, let's start with the Storm Prediction Center, but they don't have a lot of stuff out at the moment. A little bit too low of confidence. There's a few little model runs overnight that were not in alignment with other global main models, so they decided not to highlight anything. But today, we've actually had the Euro, the Canadian, the GFS, and all the ensembles line up. So everything is lined up. I think they will end up issuing a day 7 outlook for severe weather tomorrow. I think we'll end up with that day 7 slight. We'll see. They may not because of moisture concerns. We'll get into that in just a bit. But here is today's outlook for severe weather. As you can see here, we do not have a risk for tornadoes. It's generally less than 2%. Damaging winds are less than 5%. And we could actually see some elevated hailers begin to the southwest of the DFW very late tonight and make their way northeastward, potentially into the DFW area. We also had a report of a funnel cloud and a possible tornado back out in portions of Arizona earlier today. I don't think any of those were official. Yeah, it was not officially noted as a tornado. So it was a funnel possible tornado. They have not reported that as a tornado just yet. So therefore, we'll classify it as a funnel cloud. But it got very, very close to producing a tornado. And obviously, if you were on Twitter today, you probably saw the circulation of a what looked like a wedge tornado in Arizona. It's very difficult from just a photo to depict the characteristics of SLC, which is a scary looking cloud, and a wedge tornado. Most likely based off of correlation coefficient and velocity, I would definitely say that photo that's circulating is probably SLC, scary looking cloud, and not actually a wedge tornado per se. Tomorrow, we do have a risk for a few spin-up very brief tornadoes. I do not see this getting upgraded. Really, I should reword that. I apologize. We have the chance for a tornado or two. I don't think we'll see anything more than a tornado or two because it is a 2% chance for tornadoes. So don't expect much from tomorrow. The wind threat, don't expect much. I think our hail threat might end up being the biggest threat for overall severe weather. We could see some isolated areas up to an inch, maybe even slightly higher than that in diameter. Damaging winds 50 to 60, and then a tornado or two. Now, the day after that, so this is Sunday, we may be able to sneak in two or more tornadoes being a possibility, especially in the western panhandle of Florida, south central Georgia, maybe extreme southeastern Alabama. But I do think somewhere in here we have the opportunity to see a slight risk 5% chance for tornadoes if our current trends continue. So we may see 1, 2, maybe even 3 tornadoes being a possibility on Sunday. Definitely nothing notable, nothing that will be significant, but something that, you at least want to pay attention to if you live out in this marginal risk level 1 out of 5 here on Sunday. Just be aware that we may have a couple brief spin-up tornadoes. But again, nothing notable, nothing significant, nothing that I personally am worrying about. Then we go over to our day 4 through 8 outlooks for severe weather. Welcome, Lakeisha, by the way. Glad to see you in here. See if I missed anybody else. Tyler, welcome to the stream as well. So for day 4, that's not going to be much. That's Monday. Don't really expect to see anything in terms of significant severe weather or severe weather as a whole. Day 5, don't see anything either. That's Tuesday. Wednesday, that's where let me just go ahead and double check. I don't want to say anything incorrectly here. But let me go to Wednesday. Yeah, so Wednesday looks like it has the opportunity to be a severe weather day. Now, right now, the uncertainty is quite high. There's not a lot of confidence in substantial moisture return with Wednesday's system. Now, maybe it has uptrended a bit. I'll quickly go check on some model. Yeah, it actually, never mind. Since I last looked at it yesterday, it looks like moisture has uptrended for this one. So Wednesday, we may have the opportunity for some severe weather in the southern U.S. That's going to be one to watch. It could end up being a little sneaky severe threat because most of the community, including me, we're focused on Friday and Saturday's threat next week. So Wednesday may be a little sneaky severe weather day in terms of just an isolated severe threat, but we'll see. I wouldn't be too surprised to see them highlight a day 5 slight risk, to be honest with you, as long as confidence is high enough. And it looks like confidence has grown quite a bit since yesterday. Yeah, I've definitely wouldn't be shocked to see them highlight a 15% chance where I've circled maybe even a little bit more to the north. And that would be for the 12th of March, Wednesday. Then as we go into our day 7 outlook, this is Thursday. They still keep that predictability is too low. So for Thursday, that should be, I'm going to check again because, again, I don't want to get this wrong, but that should be one of our more tame days for severe weather. Yeah, that should be probably our tamest day for severe weather out of our 5-day stretch. So We have that possible severe threat on the 12th, and then Thursday we'll probably get a break, and then Friday, Saturday, maybe even Sunday could all be full of severe weather. So this is going to be a little bit of a rest day, most likely Thursday. Let me look at some solutions. There may still be an opportunity that the trough speeds up a bit or something. Yeah, Thursday, I wouldn't fully rule out a couple of severe storms in the southeastern U.S. So it may not be all that quiet of a day and all that inactive of a day. We could still see a couple of severe somewhere out there. It looks like the GFS is a little bit more west. The GFS says more of this area for the potential of a couple severe storms going into Thursday morning. That's Thursday morning. Then as we go on into Friday, day 8, this is where things most likely will end up becoming a lot more substantial. The opportunity for some significant severe weather going into Friday, March 14th. If you've been here on the channel for about a week or so, you'll know that we've actually been talking about this threat ever since it first appeared on the model runs over 2 weeks ago, or actually over a week ago, my bad. About a week ago, it was first starting to appear on our model runs and ensembles. About 350 hours out, this thing was beginning to be a signal on our models and ensembles. So ever since then, we've been watching it closely. About a week ago, we were like, hey, it's probably going to downtrend, won't be anything crazy, but we've kept with that crazy signal for the entire week, and it's actually starting to uptrend a little bit and is uptrended quite substantially today, especially predictability wise. So for this day, Friday, we actually could be looking at a very large, widespread threat for severe weather across much of the central and southern United States. The highest threat will probably be focused towards southern Dixie Alley, somewhere out in this area. We'll see how far north that gets. But we're definitely looking at the opportunity for some significant severe weather being a possibility on this day, and the possibility for some widespread severe thunderstorms across much of the central United States, all the way from southern Minnesota, probably all the way down to the Gulf coastline. Now, most of that, in my opinion, at the moment, I don't feel like most of that area that I've circled here, I feel like most of that area is going to be lacking in terms of moisture, except for this region here, the southern part. But that northern part into like Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, I feel like that area is going to be lacking in moisture return, so it may not be a significant severe threat that far north. However, obviously, we have the Gulf right here, so that's going to be whatever states are closest to the Gulf are going to have the best chance for moisture. And right now, we're going to be looking at eastern Texas, all of Louisiana, much of central western Mississippi, much of southeastern central Arkansas will be the best chance for moisture return. Now, it's still too far out, so I can't tell you exactly what significant hazards we may see, but just the trough that we're going to be seeing is definitely going to be favorable for widespread severe weather and the opportunity for significant severe weather. Diving on into some model data now, let's switch on over to our main scene here for our model runs. So we're going to start here with one of our more accurate model runs that we receive each day. That's the 12Z GFS model run. Not going to be paying a whole lot of attention to the 18Z because that normally spits out a lot of craziness. But going into tomorrow, so tomorrow probably won't see much significant severe weather or any severe weather across much of the U.S. We'll have the opportunity for a severe storm or two in the far southern portions of the U.S. Like I said, that could be accompanied by a tornado or two being a possibility. But overall, it looks like a very minimal threat for severe weather. Not really expecting much in that area. Especially in terms of significant severe weather. Don't see much being a possibility there. Sunday may have a little bit higher of a tornado threat. The tiniest bit of a higher tornado threat on Sunday compared to tomorrow. That would probably be focused out in far southeastern Alabama, far south central Georgia, into the western panhandle of Florida. And then by then, this system will begin to exit the U.S. on Monday, be more of a fish issue. Welcome, Matthew, to the stream. Glad to see you back on in here. Tuesday, it'll be inactive. Wednesday, is where we could have our sneaky severe threat. Like I said, a lot of people are talking about, including me, obviously, we're talking about that Friday, Saturday threat next week. But Wednesday might be a little bit of a sneaky severe threat out here in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and then eventually into Mississippi, going into your overnight hours into Thursday. And like I said, Thursday will probably be one of the more inactive days from Wednesday to Sunday next week. Thursday could still feature a couple severe storms, maybe a brief spin up tornado. It's a little too far out to talk specifically about hazards, but just based off of what our model runs have shown so far, we'll just keep an eye on it. Tornado threat should still be on the lower side of things. And then finally, Friday. Watch what happens on our supercell composite on Friday. So this is Friday morning. Watch this. Friday morning still. Friday afternoon. Look at the big jump going from Friday morning to Friday afternoon. Now into the mid-afternoon hours, you get a huge, huge jump in supercell composite. The potential for tornadic activity all the way up into central Minnesota, all the way back down into eastern Texas, into much of Louisiana. Huge area for supercell composite on the GFS model run. And then going into Saturday, it doesn't stop there. The GFS actually has recently shown Saturday as the biggest day for severe weather. Now, of course, the specifics on this, it's too far out. The farther out we get, the more uncertainty there is. So the less serious you should take it, especially when we're over 180 hours out. I know you can't see it, but currently we are at 200 hours out. So I wouldn't be taking this particular model run seriously. However, Saturday, March 15th, if you do live in Dixie Alley, it is 100% a day to keep an eye on as it gets closer. We'll see how it trends. Hopefully it downtrends, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Thank you, Matthew, for the $5 donation. Let's see. Just joined, bud. What's your thoughts on next week in a nutshell? Its instability and dues are looking better. I don't believe they're looking substantially better. Moisture return has uptrended slightly on the 14th. If we take a look here at our products, geez, that's very, very zoomed out. You can see moisture has slowly been uptrended. Ooh, wow. When you realize it hasn't been so slowly. Well, GFS definitely uptrended quite rapidly on that. That's alarming. So definitely a lot better than yesterday. So you can still see we've got a pretty good area of 60 plus dew points in this region. We're still lacking on dew points further north. So I do think this area up here is going to be more of a question mark for substantial severe weather. But definitely out here, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, we're looking at most likely the threat for significant severe weather going into Friday. Now, you might have seen a sneak peek of it. Look what happens here on Saturday. Look at your moisture. Watch that blue area. That's your 60-degree dew point line. Look how far north it gets. Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, you've got favorable moisture almost into northern Indiana, a huge area of favorable moisture in the middle of the afternoon on Saturday. And so that is why the GFS is very confident here on actually two areas of severe weather, closer to that surface low, which you can see your surface low is up here, but that northern threat closer to your surface low, the southern threat right near the Gulf where that moisture will be the absolute highest on Saturday. Again, we're going to keep an eye on it, but if we go ahead and just look at the runs, I bet this is going to flip-flop a lot. Watch this. So you can see how much it changes, especially as you get into yesterday. But man, today it has kind of been locking in on those two areas and uptrending on moisture. But again, it is 200 hours out, so... Oh man, this actually might be more substantial than I thought. I don't want to get too ahead of it, though, because the last two severe threats, they look ridiculous. They looked ridiculous a week out, and then slowly as we got closer, it was like, this isn't going to be that bad after all. For instance, a couple days ago, we saw that widespread damaging wind event near derecho qualification, but the tornado threat substantially underperformed. So we'll see how this trends. But definitely very alarming. Definitely something to keep an eye on. And definitely going to keep a really, really close eye on that. Can you give me some chase weather in Western Kentucky? Uh, I'll give you a squall line. I'll give you a squall line overnight, Friday night. How's that sound? Give you some of that North Carolina squall line action. I'm sure that's what you're hoping for. Totally perfect chaseable squall line. So my thoughts on this is don't pay too much attention to specific deterministic runs, uh, but watch the trends that they have. So we're watching trends at this point. We're not pinpointing areas of significant severe weather. Right now, it's a very large, very broad area that has the risk for severe weather on Friday and Saturday. Exactly who has that absolute highest threat for severe weather? Personally, I think it will be somewhere in the southern portion of the US, but exactly where in that area, it's too far out. Notice how large of an area that is. There's no pinpointed region for substantial, significant, severe weather at this point because it's a little too far out. We have to just watch our model runs and how they trend, which is what I was doing here. You can see the GFS. It's really tried to be confident in Mississippi, specifically in Mississippi, and you can see. So this is way earlier. This is like 2 days ago. So just watch how this has trended. It's trended west. See, west, west, west. Well, kind of stayed the same. Little west stayed the same. Little east, and that's as far out as we can go because we don't have any more model runs than that. This is as close as we can get our newest model run here. So you can see how little they were moving there. Over like the last 5 runs, they've moved a little bit. We'll show that again. So 2 days ago, look at these huge west jog, huge west, west, west. And then here, starting yesterday morning, it was only slight adjustments on exactly where that threat for severe weather will be located. Why has it trended so far west? Let me show you this. This is your trough, your 500 millibar wind speeds. And look at this. So 2 days ago, this is what our model run looked like. A very large area with just an elongated, huge trough ejection. Next run, this may look familiar. It looks like the same trough we were dealing with just a couple days ago in much of these same areas. But over time, this has trended, especially today, it has trended towards a much more significant trough for severe weather. You have a very well closed low up here in the 500 millibars, and you have an additional large trough ejection, all negatively tilted, or positively tilted, my bad, all positively tilted here on Saturday. And you look at these short waves, that's what would end up causing severe weather. You've got short waves here, short waves here, short waves down here, short wave down here, your actual trough access right there. So all those short waves, those kinks in the jet stream, that's what would be able to cause your severe weather chances on Saturday. And so if we just look at the deterministic GFS, hence why it has supercell composite all over the place in front of that right side of your trough. Pulling this back a bit, this is how our trough traverses the Rockies. This is crazy. Your trough enters the western US purely negatively tilted. This sucker is not positive. It's not neutral. It is completely negative entering California here on Thursday. That thing is already negative entering the Four Corners area, and it stays negative throughout the entire Four Corners area. And then as you get into Friday, you have this absolutely huge negatively tilted trough with a very tight closed low over Kansas. And that just is a recipe for significant severe weather somewhere in the eastern to southeastern portion of that trough ejection. And if we look at instability, very clearly, the GFS is highlighting this area here. Arkansas, eastern Texas, southeast Louisiana, or rather southeastern Oklahoma, much of Louisiana for the greatest severe threat. Looking at ensembles, because that's what you want to look at for any severe threat, especially this far out. You can see ensembles are most confident on instability being the highest in this area here in that blue region. If we check your newest 18Z HRRR, you can see that is still uptrending right now. It is still uptrending at this point on exactly how much instability we may see in this region here. So we're going to continue to watch it. I don't think instability will be an issue in the southern U.S. That's going to be the area where I watch the most for significant severe weather. However, for severe weather as a whole, I'm going to be watching this entire belt of flow on this trough ejection, all the way up from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, all the way down to the Gulf coastline. That's the whole entire area that I'm going to be keeping an eye on for Friday into Saturday. And again, greatest confidence in the chance for highest instability will be limited to more of Dixie Alley out here in the far southern U.S. As we get closer, we may see more uptrends with instability. For instance, the deterministic 18Z GFS has that secondary area close to the Great Lakes up in this region, and then of course that primary area back down in Dixie Alley for Saturday. Pushing that back a bit to Friday, you can see it has two areas right along that low pressure, right in front up there in Iowa, Missouri, maybe into Nebraska, and then that second area back out in the southern portion of the U.S. towards Dixie Alley. I actually didn't check if CSU updated. So CSU is a lot more interested in that northern target for severe weather. That's where it has getting close to an enhanced risk for severe weather on its day 8 outlook. It's still at a slight risk, but CSU's greatest confidence is up in this area here for severe weather. And I'm not too sure about that because that's not where we have the greatest confidence for instability to be, as well as dew points. Dew points is going to be your biggest issue, and we'll dive on into why right now. So if we go back to your 500 millibar trough, this is generally what we're seeing across the U.S. right now. This is our subtle little shortwave right here that's going to cause some elevated hailers into the southwest of the DFW area very late tonight into the early hours of tomorrow. That trough is going to traverse the Four Corners area into Texas. This could cause the potential for an isolated tornado or two out in this region tomorrow. Going into Sunday, that will traverse further into Dixie Alley. We could see, like I mentioned before, a slightly greater chance for tornadoes in this region here Sunday. We may see a 5% slight risk for severe weather introduced generally in that area, but confidence in it being a substantial severe threat is extremely low. I doubt we will see significant severe weather out of it. Instability will be limited, as well as, if we look here, dew points will be relatively limited, except for on the coastline. So that coastline area is going to be where we watch the most for a chance of severe weather. Why is it so limited? Well, we've got a very positively tilted trough that doesn't allow for any good east-southeasterly winds to pull up the trough, or rather pull up from the Gulf and allow for moisture to get in front of the trough ejection. Thus, we have a low threat for severe weather. That trough won't really matter much in terms of Friday's threat. It's going to be the next one, Wednesday's trough ejection, that will influence how substantial moisture return we see for Friday's threat. Wednesday, we're going to see I'm saying sneaky severe threat because I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it. We're going to have a not so sneaky trough, but maybe a sneaky threat for severe weather out here in the southern portions of the U.S. A decently negatively tilted trough will make its way through the Four Corners area overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning. That could cause the potential for a severe weather threat out there. And that's not half bad by any means. I mean, you've got a good area of 1,000 instability, a pretty good warm sector. If we take a look at your dew points, it is definitely lacking for dew points, especially when you get north of Texas and Louisiana. But we still could see the threat for some severe weather generally in that area going into Wednesday. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then going into Thursday, that's probably going to move on into the southeastern portions of the U.S. But you can see moisture is relatively on the limited side of things. So I think Thursday will be relatively on the tamer side of things. Could still see an isolated severe threat. Maybe a very low wind tornado threat, but anything substantial most likely won't occur. So that trough is what's going to help decrease moisture return for Friday. However, if we take a look at moisture, it really doesn't do a significant amount on the Gulf. The Gulf is still full of moisture, very much full of high 60s and 70 dew points going into Friday morning. So that trough on Thursday, Wednesday into Thursday, I don't think will affect it significantly in terms of our moisture quantity, or rather quality, our moisture quality in the southern U.S. However, how far north the moisture will go, it's going to affect. That trough is going to affect how far north our moisture return can go. And you can see because of that, your moisture goes pretty far north. Your 60-degree dew point line goes all the way into the southeastern portions of Missouri, even past the Boot Hill of Missouri Friday night. But you don't get those 60 dews to go all the way up and wrap around that low pressure up towards Iowa and Minnesota. So that trough is going to limit moisture somewhat. However, it will not keep us from seeing a substantial threat for severe weather and a widespread severe weather threat on Friday. I've seen people talk about moisture, and they're like, moisture is going to keep this from being a good threat for severe weather. That's straight up just not true. Moisture is going to be there, especially in the southern U.S. We're going to see a large area of 60 dew points, maybe even greater. It's too far out to say if we'll actually get it up to 70, but a wide area, a very large area of 60-degree dew points will be over much of the southern U.S. So no matter how this trough really trends, that area, in my opinion, I think that area is going to see severe weather. Exactly how large of a area it will be, exactly how significant of a severe threat it will be, is going to vary. But either way, I think we're guaranteeing the threat for severe weather in that region. That's why I think the SPC will end up issuing a day 7 slight risk for severe weather out in that area. If you look here, your trough is slightly misplaced from that area of greatest moisture. You can see your trough here. That sucker is in a whole nother dimension. It ain't even negative no more. It's aiming east. It's not southeast, it's east. That thing's in a whole nother dimension for Friday night there. So it is a little misplaced from your greatest area of moisture. So we may have a little bit of lacking ingredients in terms of kinematics in that area. Still gonna have enough. Wow, 3,000 instability. Well, 2,000, my bad. It's been a hot minute since I've seen green on here, at least in the short range. That actually might be able to get up to 3,000. Yeah, there you go. There, I was gonna say, there you go, 2,700. There we go. I apologize. There you go. Let's get the sounding here. I want to see wind shear. Is wind shear? Yes, wind shear is limited because it is misplaced from that greatest area of your amplified trough. Your wind shear is slightly on the lower end. Not necessarily too low, but definitely low. Definitely low. You've got 3,333 cape. I'm not even kidding. It literally. Let me switch scenes so you can see this. It's actually 3,333. Yeah, so you got 3,333 cape with quite a bit of lack in wind shear. You can see we don't have a lot of veering with height here. There's still veering, but it's not as significant as what veering we'll see up here in Iowa. That's why CSU is probably really hinting towards Iowa being the main threat for severe weather. This still isn't even all that perfect. Almost nine lower level lapse rates. This is all just due northerly winds pointing to the south. So even then that's not really perfect for severe weather because you're not really getting that wind change with height. And it's very obvious here too. Look at that. You don't have any winds veering here. There's not much veering happening in this area either. That's interesting. Let's get it towards the overnight. This should have much better veering. Yeah, because that's right where the trough is. So if this doesn't have good veering, okay, better. Not perfect, but better. But you're lacking in moisture. So that's what we're going to have to watch. That's what we're going to have to watch. On the southern risk, you have good instability, good moisture, good thermodynamics, but maybe a little bit less on the kinematic side of things. On the northern side, you have okay thermodynamics, not the best, nearly considered bad moisture, and really good kinematics because you actually have that trough ejection up there. So that's going to be what we have to watch. We have to see if we're going to be met in the middle here. Are we going to have an area that overlaps with good wind shear and good kinematics, or is it kind of going to be a limited factor ordeal on both target areas? So that's what I'll be watching. Yeah, and you can see that would probably be more of a I feel like that would be more of a linear threat up in this area. Maybe even a very significant squall line. It would not be a derecho because you don't have enough instability. Derechos need a lot of instability. So that southern area. Yeah, so that's tricky. Because this is definitely more of a discrete mode down here on Friday, so you may be a little limited on wind shear, but man, do you have some thermodynamics. I would definitely, from a chaser perspective, I would target the southern U.S. However, it's Dixie Alley. So I would rather probably chase in an area that has a lot less broccoli. But even though it may not see as substantial of a tornado threat, at least I'm going to be able to see something up here. There won't be so many trees in Iowa. So this is where I think they're going to introduce the 15% chance for severe weather first, either on the day 7 or day 6 outlook for severe weather. They may do another one on the northern side. We may even have a dual 15% for one day. I don't know if they'll ever do that, but just overall, or they'll connect it, or they'll completely connect it and just flop a big old 15. Not exactly where that is, but just generally where the ingredients are the best. We'll see what they say tomorrow on their outlook. Personally, this is going to be the area that I watch for the greatest tornado threat. There's definitely going to be a threat for severe weather closer to that low pressure where the trough is. But the southern area, that's probably going to be more of a lot more. Look at that. Look at, hold the phone. GFS is showing discrete cells. Yeah. So this would definitely be a lot more of a tornado threat further to the south. Even though you have limited veering and not the best lapse rates. Wow, where did that wind shear come from? Wow, that definitely increased a lot on wind shear. That's your wind shear. So you can see you are on the more limited side of things. But that's where I would watch for the greatest tornado threat. That's where I'm going to keep an eye on. Now, the day after that, the 15th, you can see this trough is going to continue off to the north and east Saturday night. And we'll have a new trough that forms out here. Now, I don't see any closed low. I see a very elongated area of spin. You can see that by your wind barbs in this area. There's a very large area of spin, but no very organized low pressure down in this area. If we go ahead and look at your temperatures, dew points. Okay, so just trying to figure out exactly what we're going to see. This would probably promote more of a linear threat. I can't tell exactly where your great forcing is coming from. If I had to assume, it'd probably be still from this low in here, pulling that cold front still all the way further south. So yeah, that sucker forms two different cold fronts. So this first forms a cold front up here, low here, cold front here. then as you go on into Friday, or rather Saturday, that probably would form a second cold front. But it looks like your main cold front's more to the west there. Interesting. All right, well, I see what ignites the initiation there. It is a shortwave. This shortwave right here is what ignites your storms in the south central portion of the U.S. You can see that very clearly right in here. Good old shortwave right there. And probably another shortwave behind that as well. And then I'm assuming, this is just an assumption, we're still far out, so I can't tell you for certain, but I would assume that that low pressure forms a new cold front, and that's what continues on with your threat for severe weather, continues to carry that on to the east. And then you get another trough out here, which forms a very broad, weak low in this area, and that forms another cold front, generally in that area, on Sunday. So for this, you don't get 1 day of severe weather. You don't get 2 days of severe weather, but you get 3 days of severe weather out of all these troughs. Maybe even a fourth one there. Look, it tries to be a little sneaky NC threat on the GFS there. So 3 to 4 days of severe weather. How many of those will be significant? Potentially significant. In my opinion, I'm looking at 1 to 2. I think Friday has a very good chance for some cells in the southern portion of the U.S. To produce tornadoes. Exactly how high end of a tornado threat, well, nobody knows that. Way too far out to determine. Then going into Friday, it looks like you have a short wave with a very weak cold front. Because you can see, you've got 2 lows there is what it looks like. And then your main cold front's here. Even looks like your cold front may be actually back there. So that, yeah, that's where your cold front is. You could see it from these wind barbs. Your main cold front is there. So you've got a low cold front. And your short wave is solely igniting these storms. So that is going to lead towards a lot more uncertainty, in my opinion. Because how the heck are we going to be able to pinpoint the timing of that shortwave this far out? So I would not be locking in the GFS solution for Saturday. Ooh, the Euro actually has a negatively tilted trough, much more substantially negative there. Yeah, look at that difference. I would not be locking in Saturday at all. That's why I haven't talked too much about it in this live stream. So we'll have to wait for Saturday's threat before we really get confidence on that, because there's not a lot of confidence there. Looking at the Canadian too for, yeah, there's the Canadian for Saturday, and I mean, where'd the other part of the trough go? Look at that. There's your GFS, there's your Euro, and there's your Canadian. 3 completely different scenarios for Saturday. Matter of fact, your Canadian does not even have a threat for severe weather in Dixie Alley for Saturday. Whereas your GFS has a substantial severe threat for Saturday. So definitely don't lock Saturday's threat in by any means. That could definitely downtrend substantially or just disappear from the runs. Although I don't believe it will disappear from runs. If we go back to your ensembles here, you can see your ensembles are confident in severe weather and instability in the southern U.S. So I doubt it will just disappear from your ensembles and deterministics there. But there's definitely more uncertainty on Saturday at the moment. I personally, I really do think Friday could be quite significant in the southern U.S. because although you don't have a great, like a very perfect amount of wind shear in that area, just the overall defluence here and more, it's definitely not subtle forcing, but it's slightly less forcing for ascent down here than up in this area. So your cold front is going to be, I wouldn't say a lot weaker, but maybe not as strong in the southern portion. So that could result in more of a semi-discrete storm mode. Even along the initiating boundary, you can see the cold front. Even on the cold front, even the cold front itself is initiating semi-discretely. It's not initiating as a squall line on the GFS. It's initiating as semi-discrete supercells. A lot of this area is initiating as semi-discrete cells Friday night. Look at that. And then if we go with your instability, your supercell composite, and then of course where your best moisture is. Yeah, I mean that area right in here. Right here. That is going to be the region I'm watching the most. Because when you have more subtle forcing there, mixed in with good moisture, good instability, not the best, but still pretty good kinematics, you're definitely going to have a recipe for severe weather there. I mean, you've got 78 temperatures with 70 dews. So that's definitely what I'll be keeping an eye on. But of course, this is, it's not far out to the point where it's just going to disappear. We're going to see severe weather out of this. We're going to see severe weather out of it. However, exactly how significant is the question mark, so. Yeah, if we go ahead and zoom in here. Wish I could zoom in. There you go. So that's Friday's threat. You could see all the different scenarios there. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely locked in with this trough here. Look at that, Friday. So we're definitely going to see severe weather. I'm not talking about it as if it's tomorrow. Have you seen me look at the HRRR one time in this live stream? Here, I'll answer that for you. No, you haven't. Because this threat's not tomorrow. There's your probability of supercell composite there. Again, you can tell and easily see the southern portion is the favorable area there. Alright, see, there you go. The Euro is much slower, too. So look at the difference between the GFS and the Euro. The Euro, this would allow for probably a less semi-discrete threat. The European would have a... Oh my goodness, that warm sector is cooking. Look at that. You may not have a solid area of semi-discrete activity by any means, but you've got such a large... Oh my goodness. You've got such a large open warm sector. Wow. So even on the European, it's still very, very significant. Two different scenarios, but both significant. And the Canadian model run was an outlier yesterday. Oh, I can't even show you. Yesterday, this was a big, big outlier. But now today, it looks like it's more of with the Euro here. It's definitely more of with what the Euro shows. Not as good on that northern threat for severe weather, so... yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, for sure. But the main threat I'm watching, okay, the thing that I can nearly guarantee is that we're gonna have a threat for severe weather in this area Friday. I can very closely guarantee that that region will have a threat for severe weather. Unless the craziest downtrend occurs, like the whole trough just disappears, I can nearly guarantee that area is going to get severe weather. Further north, there's a question mark on exactly how your trough will evolve. Saturday, there's a question mark on if we're going to be able to see that short wave in this area and how strong that low pressure will be on the northern area and exactly where your cold front and short wave will be located. And then Sunday's threat, well, Sunday's just way too far out. I mean, you're going to have a bunch of uncertainty there. So Sunday's just a big question mark over this whole area. It's really not even going to bother looking at Sunday's threat, if we're even going to have a threat on Sunday. So I'm very confident Friday we're going to see a threat for severe weather in this area. I'm very confident in that. Again, GFS model, 12Z, 18Z, 06Z, 0Z, 18Z from yesterday. Pretty much all of them show a threat for severe weather, especially your ensembles there. European model run also shows that threat. And even the Canadian, which I'm not a big fan of the Canadian model run, but I still use it to see if there's a lot of uncertainty. Still shows a notable threat for severe weather there. Now, how significant, again, is a question mark. That is a question mark. But here you go. This is your mean accumulation of supercell composite on the newest 18Z GFS model run for Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And you can see how large of an area we may end up seeing supercell composite in, with the best threat for severe weather and that highest threat most likely focusing where that moisture will be the greatest over the southern U.S. So, there you go. Again, my overall takeaway is the greatest threat for severe weather is definitely going to be in the southern portion of the U.S. Further to the north, there's a question mark on how that trough evolves, how much moisture we get, how much instability we get. There's a lot of uncertainty between model runs on the evolution of that trough. And then Saturday, even though the GEFS seems locked in on the threat of Saturday's severe threat here, I would definitely be questioning that low pressure's position. Will we see a good shortwave down in this area? How much moisture will we have? Instability, all the stuff we need for tornadoes. Are we going to see enough of it? Because even though the GFS is very confident in that, other models like the European, well, the European is much better than it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, right? Not too much better, actually. Yeah, so hold on a second. I think we got an outlier here. Yeah, we definitely got an outlier. Canadian model run, let's just go ahead and put a big X over that for Saturday's threat. That is an outlier right there, if I've ever seen one. So we'll put a big old X over the Canadian model run for the moment. The GFS and Euro definitely agree on a severe weather threat in the southern U.S., but how significant is a big old question mark on exactly how substantial Saturday's threat may be. So first, let's get through Friday's threat. That's going to be the one we got to get through first. Then we'll figure out exactly how substantial Saturday may be. And then we'll figure out if Sunday's going to even be a threat for severe weather. But before all that even happens, we're also tracking the opportunity for severe weather Wednesday out here in Dixie Alley. And then before that, we also have a chance for a spin-up tornado or two tomorrow in this area, and then Sunday in this area. So there you go. That's what we're going to be keeping an eye on. Multiple troughs, multiple chances for significant severe weather throughout mid-March. We may calm down a bit towards late March. There's definitely going to be the chance that we calm down a bit there. But most likely we'll end up with another threat for severe weather in very late March. If we look at ensembles, you can see ensembles are not confident in any scenario for late March. If you guys are enjoying the stream, make sure you hit that like button. 5 away from our like goal. I didn't mean to pull that up. There you go. It's greatly appreciated. Also, if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button with the notification bell set to all. It's greatly appreciated. And share this channel with your family, friends, social media. Here is your daily sum of the United States supercell composite over the next couple days. You can see a very notable signal here, one that is very difficult to miss, for the 14th of March. And another signal, although not as notable and not as confident, for the 15th of March. And then look at this, already starting on another signal on the 19th. We're already starting to begin. You see that black line right there? See the little black line going up a bit? That's already hinting towards another opportunity for severe weather on the very tail end of this. And then, of course, you can see the one on the 8th of March as well, which is tomorrow. So tomorrow, it looks like capping is going to be an issue, so we probably won't see much tomorrow. You can see the 12th here. I think that's Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. That's Wednesday, right? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah. So you see that little sneaky threat for severe weather possible on the 12th there. And then, of course, you have your big threat on the 14th, another possible threat on the 15th. And then as we get towards the 19th as well, we have a little threat as well. Yeah, the 12th is still very interesting. I don't think it will be a significant severe threat, but, I mean, it's definitely, it definitely has a chance for some severe weather, for sure. We definitely have a chance for some severe storms there. Moisture would be the biggest issue. I haven't seen a single person hype up Wednesday's threat, Rango. What are you talking about? Matter of fact, I haven't even seen a single post about Wednesday's threat for severe weather. Well, then you just follow the wrong people on Twitter, buddy. I haven't seen a single soul talk about a threat for severe weather on a Wednesday. Literally. That's why I said it's a bit of a sneaky severe threat, because I haven't seen a single person talk about it. A few days ago. What? Let me guess, it's probably somebody who's been notoriously wrong in the community and everybody says not to follow him because all he does is hype and he's in it for the money. The sad thing is I know like 4 people like that. It's horrific how people in the weather community are just after money. Some people. Most of the people, if not all the people I follow, they're not in it for the money. I don't allow channel names, but it's okay if a mod does or doesn't delete that. But yeah, I've seen a lot about what James has said recently, and he's dead right. I mean, I don't know if he's had a tweet. I followed him for... Now, not on Twitter, but overall, I've known him and watched him for, like, the last 3 years, which is not as long as much of you guys. But I've never seen him be, like, dead, like, far off on any threat. Yeah, Reed is, he's a little... Sometimes he can be a little over the top on his wording. I mean, he did call March 4th a possible super outbreak. A week out. So... It doesn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if he says a possible super outbreak for this either. But this is the type of trough that you see significant severe weather with. We'll see what happens. We'll see which way it trends. We'll see which way it trends. One of my neighbors are playing music right now, and I swear it sounded like a tornado siren. I actually properly took off one of my headphones to see if I could hear it. Yeah, this event is going to be compared to March 31st, 2023 a lot. Because it has 2 areas for severe weather. Whenever we have a bimodal risk for severe weather, everybody in the community just automatically starts to think March 31st, 2023 now, because that is the day we saw a double high risk, and it's the only day most of us have ever seen a double high risk issued. I, if I'm not mistaken, it's happened twice now. I'll have to go. I forgot exactly when, but it was the most recent one everybody remembers, right? Not a lot of people remember that first one, but I can't recall it. I'm pretty sure there was two of them. But literally, I swear, we could probably have 500 instability up here and 500 instability down here, and somebody on Twitter is going to say March 31st, 2023 all over again. Like, we could have not even 10% of the event's ingredients, and people are going to compare it to that threat. But my personal opinion, again, the area that I'm most confident in severe weather is in this region here, where moisture return will be the greatest. Now, it's going to come down to specifics here, which is too far out. That's too far out to talk about specifics. But it's all going to come down to where our wind shear and instability and all our best ingredients overlap, which I don't know exactly where it will be, but I have a pretty good feeling it's going to be somewhere in the southern U.S. where we have that 60-plus degree dew points, as well as up to 2,000, maybe slightly more than that, instability being a possibility. As we get closer, we'll see if these uptrend a lot or downtrend. But that's the area I think has the best chance for severe weather out of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all three of them. That's the one I'm most confident in. Thank you for tuning in, Jessica. Have a great rest of your day. Or your night. 6 p.m. Central. Yeah, again, for Friday, the question mark here is going to be exactly how far north our trough gets, how far north it's pulling instability and moisture. For the southern area, there's not really a whole main area, like a primary question mark there. I guess it could be wind shear, but most models agree that that's going to be an area that will see severe weather Friday, whether or not it'd be very significant or not, too far out to say. And then Saturday, there's been a few models that don't show our trough being as far north and as potent up here, as well as not showing as potent of a short wave forming out there in the southern portion of the U.S. for Saturday. So Saturday, in my opinion, Saturday has quite a bit of uncertainty. I'm not really going to do a big analysis on it until we get a bit closer, but Friday, I mean, I'm gonna be doing analysis on Friday's threat. Pretty much every model run, I'm gonna look at it very closely and see what's changing because, yeah, just this trough. I mean, if it's more south, like the Euro says, then it's gonna be a crazy severe day in the southern U.S. If it's more north, like the GFS has, then, like I said, we'll have a question mark on how far north ingredients go, as well as how much wind shear is available in Dixie Alley, based on exactly where the trough sets up. So, but right now, if we look at our ensembles, again, this is why we're doing more of a confident analysis in it. We're not being extremely careful with which way these models may trend. Your ensembles are so confident. They are so confident in a large negatively tilted trough ejection for Friday. They are extremely confident. So if it feels like I am going a little bit into the specifics, that's because I kind of am. Because, like I said, our confidence is decently high in the threat for severe weather, somewhere on that belt of flow in your trough ejection. The only reason why the Storm Prediction Center didn't update, or rather didn't highlight a day 8 risk, is because there wasn't as much confidence yesterday as there is today in the threat for severe weather. You know, this morning they only had the maybe not even the 06Z runs. They had the 0Z runs from yesterday, maybe the 06Z runs from this morning. They didn't have the 12Z, 18Z, and what we're eventually going to get, the 0Z later on tonight. And so far, I mean, I'm pretty sure every model, I mean, if we compare the Euro from yesterday, you can see yesterday the Euro had a low pressure here with that huge main belt of flow in this area. Compare it to today, your Euro is really completely different. It's trended a lot more to the southeast with your low being here and more of a confined trough in this area, negatively tilted. Your GFS is still more of what the Euro was showing yesterday, so there's still uncertainty, especially on that northern risk. Especially with the northern risk. But, I mean, no matter what I go to, if I go to the 18Z here, let me just show you. 18Z, it has a threat for severe weather over Dixie Alley. 12Z, it has it. Euro 12Z has it. Canadian model has it. Ensembles have it. I mean, pretty much everything that can go out this far, and if you look at it, it's going to have a threat for severe weather in Dixie Alley. Matter of fact, let's look at a bunch of them. Here's a bunch of them. Here's all 20 of your ensemble models on the GEFS. And look at them all. All of them. All of them. Dixie Alley, all of them. Every last one of them. You cannot find a single one that does not have a threat for severe weather in the southern U.S. Now, there's some of them where you can find not as potent of a threat for severe weather in the northern U.S. Example, Ensemble 17. That trough is not nearly as amplified for the northern United States. So that would lead towards a lesser, smaller threat for severe weather in the northern U.S. there. But, I mean, pretty much every last one of them has a threat for severe weather in Dixie Alley. Most of them have that threat in the northern side of the United States as well, towards Iowa. But again, there is still some uncertainties on that. If we look at the Euro it's not as fast with your trough. You know, the GFS here, it has your low in this area by Saturday morning. Whereas the Euro has the low out here Saturday morning. So that could mean all the difference in terms of your threat for severe weather in the northern U.S. Honestly, after looking at all this, I would be a little bit surprised if we did not wake up to a 15% chance for severe weather on the day 7 outlook from the SPC in the southern U.S. I know there's still a question mark. Probably not that far east either. I was just highlighting the southern U.S. Probably not actually that area there. Well, maybe that whole area. Never mind. Maybe it would be most of that area. I know there's still a bit of a question mark on the extent of moisture. However, the main question mark with moisture is how far north it will go. How far north will it go? We're quite confident it will get into, southern Arkansas, all of Louisiana, this area at least. The main question is, how far north is that going to get? Is it going to get into Missouri? Is it going to get all the way up to Iowa? I highly doubt it. It would take a miracle to see 60 dews all the way up into southern Iowa with this setup, at least for Friday. So that's your main question mark, is how far north your moisture will get past central Arkansas. This trough, the way it's going to be amplified as it passes the Rockies, it does not scream April 27th, 2011 at all. Anybody who's comparing that to this threat is just, they haven't done an analysis on April 27th, 2011, and they haven't looked at the exact trough itself. April 27th, 2011, the two things people immediately think, they go this: negative trough, Dixie Alley, super outbreak. Boom. That's immediately what they think. If there is a negative trough in Dixie Alley, it's a tornado outbreak. Super outbreak. April 27th, 2011. Boom. Right there. Full stop. Right there. Super outbreak. That's immediately what their head goes to. And I mean, this is just not. I don't even know. Is somebody actually comparing this to April 27th, 2011? Because it's really not even close. At least with what Reed said for a super outbreak with the last trough, the trough was at least a little similar. Yeah, it had similar characteristics and how it traversed and everything, but this is not even close. It's not even close. The only thing that's similar between this and April 27th, 2011 is that it's a negative tilted trough and the threat is possibly Dixie Alley. At least for this one, it's possibly Dixie Alley. Obviously, April 27th, 2011 was Dixie Alley. All right, well, now I got to show you guys. For anyone who thinks this is going to be April 27th, 2011 all over again, which it wouldn't surprise me if somebody's said that seriously. Let me go ahead and show you the April 27th, 2011 trough. Okay, which one is it going to be? You. Yep. April 27th, 2011. Yep. Give me the southeastern US. Turn all that off. Trough ejection at the 500 millibars. Alrighty. Let's see. I want to also look at this too, just briefly. I think I'm on the wrong day. Because this... Okay, there you go. Now I'm on... I was actually at the wrong height. Jeez. I'll show you guys in a second. Alright, here's their trough on April 27th, 2011. And there you go. Now you tell me how this looks similar. Here's April 27th, 2011. You want to tell me how that looks similar? April 27th, 2011's trough. March 14th trough. How's that similar in any way? Other than them both being negatively tilted and the threat generally being in Dixie Alley. And look how much further south April 27th was, too. It's just not even close. And this is, by the way, just in case you were ever wondering what a textbook negatively tilted trough is, this is it. That is textbook. Jeez. You could also look at your warm sector, too. Let's compare that. So there, now you can see your surface low that developed over Arkansas, Tennessee. You can see, well, the surface low actually developed primarily over Oklahoma, Arkansas, then moved into Tennessee. But there's your warm sector for April 27th, 2011. And you can see how perfect it was in Mississippi and Alabama. Literally perfect warm sector. And if we look, I don't know exactly. There you go. And by the way, that is 5,000 instability, mind you, not 500. So let's just also compare that to. Here is the instability for our upcoming trough on March 14th. Here's the instability on April 27th, 2011. Not even remotely close. Not even in the same area. But yeah, I just wanted to prove a point that not every single trough that's negatively tilted and enters the southern US means it's going to be a super outbreak. Like I said, last week's trough, a week out, it looked really close, at least how it entered the US and the orientation and how amplified it was. It did look similar to April 27th, 2011, which is why that's probably why Reed was calling it a possible super outbreak. But the day after that, things started to downtrend with the warm sector and the instability. So, but yeah, this trough literally, like I said, it's nowhere close. Alabama, Mississippi won't have to deal with something like that. Probably, I would almost say forever. I don't know if something like that is ever going to happen again in Mississippi and Alabama. We will eventually get another widespread super outbreak, but it happening the way it did in Mississippi and Alabama, it's just never going to happen. The way how we had that morning line of damaging winds, the major tornado outbreak the day before that even led up into April 27th, 2011, and then the actual super outbreak itself. I mean, geez, you're never going to see something like that again. It's literally impossible to see that setup again. No two troughs are the same. Ever. So I will definitely say you'll never see that again. I mean, shoot. Remember the 45 SIG in 2021? I'm sure there was a lot of people calling that April 27th, 2011 all over again because that was a 45 SIG in Mississippi and Alabama. But guess what? It underperformed significantly. I just like thinking back to that day, man. I mean, everything went exactly right. It did not have one thing wrong with it. But would what would need to happen to get a high risk in the Rockies? I don't even know if that's possible. I know we've seen enhanced risks out there, but I don't know. I don't even think that would be possible because there's so many mountains. Unless we had one. We probably did with the old outlooks before um before 2014. We probably did have a high risk out near the Rockies or in the Rockies. Because that's when the SPC was less accurate. They didn't have as good data as they do now. And they also weren't as careful with their categorical risks. No, we will never have April 27th, 2011 ever again. You're never going to get a setup that's exactly the same, period. End of discussion. It's literally impossible. Let me see here. Yeah, so back onto our topic here. Back onto topic here. After our debate about people on Twitter calling this April 27th, 2011 all over again. Thankfully, I haven't had anyone on my feed. I try to keep my Twitter feed as normal as possible. But yeah, again, Friday, probably going to be our main day for severe weather. Most confident in Dixie Alley, generally in this area here for severe weather. How substantial it is, if we're going to see SIG tours or not, it's too far out to say about actual hazards. It's too far out to say exactly what hazards we may see. We're definitely going to have the chance for damaging winds, hail, and probably tornadoes, but exactly how high end or low end each one of those hazards will be, too far out to say. You know, I will compare this to the March 31st, 2023 trough. Just to show you how ridiculous that trough was as well. Now, this one is not a horrific analog. It is not as bad as April 27th, 2011. That's a terrible analog for this threat. But there's definitely some similarities between this threat and March 31st, 2023. So here's your trough for March 31st, 2023. You can see a very organized closed low, strong low pressure in Kansas and Nebraska, South Dakota. That's South Dakota and Nebraska. A very large, negatively tilted trough. You can see all these substantial defluents out here, by the way. Look at that. Large area of defluents across most of the central U.S. there. And if we go to our March 14th threat, your closed low here is in Kansas with your defluents more like this. Much weaker defluents, of course, further to the south. So, like I said, it's not a terrible analog. It is not a terrible analog. It's definitely not a terrible analog. Of course, your strongest defluence is obviously where that jet stream's the strongest, which was definitely overlapping the northern mode right up here, hence why they went high risk. And you see how that progressed as well. Very strong defluence there. Very classic defluence. Very sharply strong, negatively tilted trough. Also, look at the evolution of this trough, too. This trough moves like this, whereas on March 31st, your trough moved more normally like that. If I go back over here, you could see. Watch your trough. See how your tail end of the trough, right here, moves from New Mexico all the way up into the Midwest. See? Moves all the way up into the Midwestern U.S. Really should pay attention to the front, actually, not the tail end. Look at the front there. It goes from Nebraska all the way into the Northeast and New York. Whereas with this one, your front starts generally in the same area, right? Nebraska, Kansas. But look where it ends. It goes up here into Canada. Way farther north. But alright. I'm getting ready to head off here. So if you guys have any last second questions or anything you want me to answer, or maybe anything in terms of you being confused about this weather briefing, because I know I'm not always understandable from a non-weather enthusiast perspective. It would definitely be very hard to follow along with me if you don't know a lot about weather. I don't think Ohio's going to get a lot out of this. You definitely want to keep an eye on... I don't really see Ohio getting much. Keep an eye on Saturday and Sunday, but I doubt it will do much for you guys. Alright, but just to give you an overview, really quick, before we continue to, or rather before we end, tonight could see some isolated large hail up to an inch and a half in diameter around in southwest of the DFW area. Tomorrow could see a brief spin-up tornado or two around this area here. Sunday, we could see a few tornadoes in this region here. Monday, relatively inactive. Tuesday, relatively inactive. Wednesday, we might see a little bit more of a notable threat. You can see the defluence here. Relatively neutral to negative tilt trough. Maybe a slightly greater threat for severe weather in this portion of the U.S. For Wednesday. So we're going to keep an eye on that, see which way it trends. Thursday, relatively on the inactive side. Could still see some lingering severe storms on Thursday, but probably won't be notable. Friday, most likely our first significant day for severe weather. Still a question mark, but we could see the threat for severe weather as far north as Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska. More confidence in a threat for severe weather, potentially significant in the southern United States for Friday. Going into Saturday, again, more uncertainty on the northern side. Not as confident, but could still see severe weather up there. A little bit more confident on the threat for widespread severe weather in Dixie Alley again on Saturday, March 15th. March 16th, Sunday, the severe threat may linger into the mid-Atlantic and eastern United States, but exactly how notable it is a big question mark. And then after that, yeah, don't look after Sunday. Monday and on, March 17th and on, you're 230 hours out, and that's just a lot of a question mark there. What do you think about the wild super outbreak talk? It's all stupid. If anyone says at any point that there is a possible super outbreak on the horizon and there is not a 45 sig tour from the SPC, it's all garbage. Just don't listen to them. Throw it in the trash. Don't listen at all. In order for us to be talking about a super outbreak, the SPC has to have a 45 sig tour. That's where I start thinking this might have the chance for a super outbreak. If it's not a 45 sig tour, it's not in question. It's not even in my mind that we could see a super outbreak. So yeah, that's going to be it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Mods for Mon Chat. Would you consider Arkansas more Dixie Alley or traditional Tornado Alley? That's tricky. You're kind of both. That's a good question. Wow. I guess I would consider that more of Dixie. But that is a really, really good question right there. We already did some soundings. We'll go over more later on in our next live stream. I'll keep you guys updated on when that might be. And yeah, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Go ahead and hit that like button. Share this stream with your family, friends, social media. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe. Watch the severe weather. And have a great rest of your night. Goodbye. Stay safe, watch severe weather, have a great rest of your Friday night, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream or video that I do. Thank you, bots, for Mon Chat. Good.